Welcome to the first edition of the Gridiron Imports podcast.
I'm Immo. I'm the director of scouting for Gridiron Imports, Germany born and raised and still based.
My name is Matthias Taub. I've been coaching for at least 6 years now with the Triangle Racerbacks in Denmark, with the Danish under-19 national team. I have about 4 or 5 years experience as a scout, including at the ELF level. This week, we're going to talk about the upcoming showcase we're having in Nigeria, which will be the first showcase we've ever had in the continent of Africa. We're going to talk a bit about the European players we have in the NFL right now. And then we're going to talk about some do's and don'ts when you're making a highlight tape. And we're going to start off right with the freshest news here, which is the Nigeria showcase. Have you ever been to Nigeria, Immo?
No, I sadly never have been.
I think me neither, for that matter. But I think we both have had some experiences with African players, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They come at you hard. They're passionate about it, that's for sure. And I think the common denominator with those guys are they're all just exceptionally fit. So I think there's a good chance to find some good players down there.
Athletes, absolute athletes. That's what I can tell you. Like my whole true experience with players from Nigeria and with Nigerian roots, usually very, very athletic dudes.
That's what the NFL is figuring out as well. Do you know how many players from Nigeria they added to the IPP this year?
Ooh. I think alone in the IPP was definitely more than 4 players, I think. And I once saw the very impressive stat when they allowed players to list a second country on their helmets. And I think there were about more than 100 players who listed Nigeria as the country they want to represent as well, besides the United States on their NFL helmets.
Of the 8 IPP players this year, 6 of them were Nigerian. If you're looking at the list of international players in the NFL, it just goes Nigeria, all the way down. So I think there's definitely some eyes on that country right now. So I think we're happy to be invited because that's actually what we were. This is not us seeking them out. This is Nigeria asking us to come down there and help.
Yeah.
Which is going to be huge for Gridiron Imports moving forward, I think. It might make more opportunities for Africa or the continent of Africa, because it can't just be Nigeria that has all these athletes. It has to be spread out throughout the continent.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that's worth mentioning regarding Nigerians is that there seems to be a lot of patriotism. So all these Nigerian players, they're part of the Asi Umenyora Uprise Initiative, where he prepares them to make that trip to the NFL. And I think, isn't the Nigeria the best represented country in NBA as well?
Could be. I mean, Nigeria is a very fascinating country. Also, given the amount of population they have, I think it's population-wise, could be even the biggest country in Africa. And so that makes it kind of natural, obviously, that there's a huge quota of people just also leaving the country, huge fluctuation, and also huge diaspora base they have spread around the United States and the United Kingdom especially. So that definitely helps. And with a huge amount of people they have, that just really brings things forward. I think it's 200 million.
All right. So speaking of the NFL IPP, obviously there's, for us, one shining beacon right there in Junior Aho. Do you know what the status is with him?
So he's still in the practice squad, yeah. That's pretty much the status. Due to the limitation on playing time, it's hard for him seeing the field. By the way, a small mention I want to throw with Junior. He apparently listed on his he listed on his Instagram, by the way, the Nigerian flag as well. Yeah, just as a fun fact.
Yeah, and he's French, if anybody doubts that. Obviously, apparently has Nigerian roots as well. I didn't know that. But he is French. He's played for the French under-19 national team and then made the move over to... Did he play with New Mexico Military Institute first?
He played first, yeah. So he first played in Finland, Sayanoki Crocodiles. Then he played for New Mexico Military. and then he moved on to Southern Methodist University.
Yeah, we don't like those guys. That's my rival to school. Go Frogs. All right, but there's Junior is not the only player on NFL rosters who's from Europe. Obviously, we got Kylian Sira as well.
Yes.
But did he get injury waiver?
He currently has an injury waiver, right, with the Houston Texans.
Right. Fingers crossed for him that he gets a chance to stay on there. I know that reports out of training camps were really positive for him. He really impressed there.
Yes.
We got other players on practice squads as well that we just want to talk about quickly before we move on to some of the starters or the contributors. We got Thomas Odukoya, who's a tight end out of Holland, out of the Netherlands, and he played for Eastern Michigan as a tight end before moving on to the NFL as a undrafted free agent. There's actually, I think that's worth mentioning, that Eastern Michigan, they have a pretty good tradition for having European tight ends by now.
Oh, absolutely.
In case the listeners don't know, they have Andreas Påske, who's from Denmark. Go Denmark. And they also have Cedric Anton, who's German.
So yeah, and Thomas is kind of, he was the trendsetter definitely for Eastern Michigan, and like bringing in international tight ends, realizing, hey, we had an amazing guy with him on our football team. They really loved him. They really enjoyed his presence at Eastern Michigan in the city of Ypsilanti. And he was kind of the trailblazer for that. Like, really left an impression. Like, other international players obviously already left an impression at Eastern Michigan. But he really was like, hey, tight ends, Eastern Michigan, that just works.
That's just a factory by now. They had Påske, who's there now, like I just said before. And I know that Thomas played a huge role in recruiting him. Him and Steven Nilsson, who's now with the Raiders in Austria. But those two guys, they played a huge role in recruiting Påske. I don't know if they played a huge role in recruiting Cedric, but undoubtedly the fact that they have a European tight end room has played a factor for him. I can't imagine anything else.
No.
And then we have Sajkovic, who's with the Cardinals, also on the practice squad over there, and he's also a tight end.
Former Vienna Vikings product. Went also through the international pathway program straight up from Europe, and now happily plays.
Yeah, he was one of those few players who actually made the transition from IPP to just regular contributor, right? Or on the practice squad, but there's no IPP exemption for him, right?
Oh, he's still officially listed on the practice squad.
So shout out to Sajkovic. That's a major accomplishment. He came over as a wide receiver, I think, and then transitioned to tight end.
Yeah, they put some muscles on him.
Yep. I remember Påske once told me that within the first month after he arrived in Ypsilanti, that he gained like 40 pounds without losing any speed. And the coaches were blown away by that. And to me, to think that you can gain that much weight in such a short amount of time without having any negative impact on your performance is incredible.
Yeah.
So I don't know who the strength and conditioning coach is over there at Eastern Michigan, but shout out to that guy. That guy works wonders.
Absolutely.
And then we got another Austrian who is with the Indianapolis Colts, who we'll soon see in Frankfurt. You corrected me last time because you thought I butchered this name. Bernhard Reimann, who's...
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, there you go.
Yes, points for me. Now you do a Danish name.
Andreas Påske.
No. Andreas Påske? Come on now. Well, Reimann, he is the starting left tackle for the Colts, and he's been doing a bang-up job with the Colts this year. They have played a pretty tough schedule, actually. They played the Los Angeles Rams 2 weeks ago, and then they've played the second overall draft pick in Will Anderson in week 2. And I was looking at PFF grades, and Reimann has the grade, or he's ranked right below Lane Johnson as all of the tackles in the NFL, which is an incredible feat. I know the Eagles just made a push to EA Sports to get Lane Johnson in the 99 club. So definitely Reimann has been exceeding expectations this season. That sounds to me like he's doing an incredible job. Have you watched them? Yeah. Have you watched any Colts games this year?
I so far haven't, to be honest.
I think we need to make that put that on a referendum that in the future we need to watch these international kids play in the NFL so we can reference more than just PFF stats.
Oh, absolutely.
One guy who's had a shitty PFF grade so far is. Do you want to take a shot at this, Hjalte Froholt?
Yeah, I think PFF sucks in that regard. Just kidding. Yeah, Hjalte Froholt.
Yeah, that was okay.
It's okay. We're getting there.
But we talked about this just before the show started, that he has actually played possibly the most difficult schedule for an offensive lineman to have. As a center, he played the first-round draft picks of the Washington Commanders in week 1. Then in week 2, he had the Cardinals. Week 3, he's with the Cardinals. He played the Giants, who has all-pro nose tackle Dexter Lawrence up front. Week 3, they played Micah Parsons, who you met.
Yep.
And have some thoughts about. Week 4, they played the 49ers. And then in week 5, they were having probably the easiest game for them as an offensive lineman when they played the Bengals. And that's just basically a who's who of defensive line units.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's been moving that offense and he's been getting a lot of credit from his teammates for helping the team or the offense out moving forward and down the field. I think that says a lot, even though his grade is shit, which goes to what you just said, that the PFF isn't always reliable. And I think it's okay to be, as a first-year starter, to get beaten by Dexter Lawrence and Micah Parsons.
I mean, double-edged sword. You can see both ways. Like on the one side, you wish for everyone who's playing and who you know or who you're rooting for that he wins every rep. But on the other side, you're absolutely right. It's very tough to do it as a first-year starter.
Yep, I think that's more than you can expect from anybody. To be able to perform well week in and week out when you're facing that competition. All right, so we're going to move a bit forward here, and then we're going to transition. I don't have a good segue for this, but we're going to move into some highlights, do's and don'ts. I have personally been watching at least 150 player profiles on Game Time this last week, and I have watched so much bad film. It's not necessarily the play, but how they structure their highlight tapes. So you just want to go through like the 3 main rules of how to set up your highlight tape?
Yeah. On my side, I always say the biggest thing with setting up your highlight tape is not starting the tape properly. And you probably know this, or like feeling on this. A huge thing that goes into that is when they do the circles around themselves, they sometimes let the tape roll, then mark themselves, and then let the tape continue.
Try to say why that's a bad thing, because I totally agree that that's hurtful.
Yeah.
But try to elaborate a little bit.
Yeah. So it's a very bad thing because it, like, on the one side, for me as a viewer, usually ruins the flow of the game tape. And then on the other side, it also hurts spotting you, because I want to spot you before the play starts. I want to know who do I have to watch. I don't want to have any interruption in it. I just want to go with the flow, with the drive of the play. And if I see you basically, spotting yourself, like starting the tape, then pause it, just for me to spot you, it just takes time off the viewing, and it ruins the whole viewership of it.
Right, because you have to rewind back and watch.
Yeah.
Why did you get it?
Because I want to see you get off as well.
Yeah.
Don't lose yourself when you next to the quarterback. I want to see the whole progress of you getting to the quarterback. Or as a wide receiver, I want to have you get off, see you going on the route, and then you catching the ball. And don't lose yourself just when you catch the ball, or like when you're halfway in on a post route.
Right, because if the defensive back, he fell down because the ground is slippery, that's not a plus on your side of the column that you got open. It was the cornerback who couldn't stay on his feet.
Yeah.
All right, so mark yourself at the beginning of the tape or at the beginning of the play. That's number 1. What's number 2?
So number 2 for me, very important on creating highlight tapes. I like seeing players listing their best highlights first. Like, one of the most important things you have to do is ensure that people stay focused to your tape. And there's a golden rule about media that there's like a 7 to 30 seconds attention span that somebody pays. So when you upload your plays, the first ones gotta be the most impressive ones you have. Can't just like list place by place just because you just throw them in randomly and it has no order. Like it gotta be really the most explosive things you have in your portfolio.
So would you want to have like the first 5 seconds be a rundown of your 40, your bench press, your shuttle, your 10-yard splits, but you just want to go straight into the action?
Yeah. So I usually like going straight into the action, but on the other side, listing those stats can be very interesting as well. It's a split thing actually. So there's people who like getting the stats, who like getting to know like, okay, this player had so many yards, this is his name, this and that. I'm a pure tape enthusiast on the other side. So I'm one of those people who are like, oh, okay, he's starting with a massive play. That's what I want to see first. I want to know, okay, can this kid ball or not? Is it worth seeing all these stats?
Personally, I agree. I think that putting your 40 time on your Huddle account or on your Twitter account in like plain text, that works well. And then have the link to your Huddle account or the link to your highlight tape just below that. So I can see the stats before I go to the highlight tape, but I prefer just seeing tape when I'm watching tape. So I completely agree there. What's your third thing on that list?
So one thing is that you usually shouldn't miss out is like having proper tape. I know that is hard. So due to that, like have your videos in a understandable order. Like most impressive plays first, but then get into kind of like a game by game flow and focus on those things that really work. Don't ruin your tape with just like posting in some bad blocking highlights. Just because you pancake someone doesn't mean it always is worth listing that.
Try to explain that to the listeners. Why is a pancake not always a highlight?
A pancake is not always a highlight because sometimes the guy just slips down. Sometimes you just like over manpowered him, but not really put in the technique or anything. So you don't want to overstretch your tape in length. You don't want to put out a 7-minute highlight tape if those 7 minutes could be 3. So you don't want to overstretch tape.
Right.
And if it's 7-minute entertainment, then I watch it. But like after 3 minutes latest, people lose their attention span and lose their focus.
All right. There you have it, folks. From Gridiron Imports, Director of Scouting. Make sure that you go straight into your tape when you're making highlight tapes. Make sure you have your best plays first, and then make sure that there's some sort of order and go for quality over quantity when making your tape. Those are the 3 rules of Gridiron Imports, the highlight tapes. So, rounding off here, we're at the bottom of the list of things to talk about today. Do you have anything that you would like to ask the listeners or any wishes from the listeners?
No, not really. I think we go on the flow with those kind of things. Yeah, leave some notes, leave some marks. Let us know what you want to hear next.
Yes, definitely agree on that last point. Let us know what you would like to hear moving forward, and we're going to take that into account. All right. Thank you very much, Immo.
Yep, thank you, Matthias.